Hi, and welcome to Tony Time. Well, we have our very special guest back in Maine, Pat BRYMER. Welcome.
Thank you. It's nice to be back.
Now, if all of you had seen our show from 2 years ago, God, 2 years ago, Pat, I always say he is the father of lamb chop, but he worked with Sherry Lewis for how many years?
20 years.
20 years. And, you did lamb chop. I remember you visiting me in New York. Lamb chops were in the corner. Poor little things. And since Sherry has passed away and you're working with Mallory, her
Right.
daughter, and now is she bringing lamb chop back or what's happening?
Oh, she's brought her back. She
Oh.
never left.
Okay. But wasn't there a thing that Mallory was making lamb chop her little sister? Or...
Oh, yeah. She's always been her little sister, but that's part of her act now.
Okay.
My little sister, lamb chop.
Now, what's happening with Charlie Horse and all of...
Charlie Horse is pretty much retired.
Oh.
He's kind
Sent to
of...
pasture?
Yes. Yeah, but Hush Puppy is still around every now and then.
All right. All right, good. Now, where is Mallory performing these days?
She does a lot of live shows everywhere.
In Los Angeles or
Well, she
nationwide?
plays the Magic Castle in Los Angeles
Okay.
occasionally, and she plays a lot of family performing arts centers and such across the United States, and she does family shows primarily.
Great.
And she does, benefits. She'll be the hostess, and Lamb Chop will be the co-hostess for benefits for charities.
That's good that lamb chop is still going on.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
still part of another generation.
Well, exactly. That's what's so important.
Yeah, I mean, it's like carrying on new generations. There's kids all the time coming up, and we just...
And she's ageless, unlike ourselves.
Oh, I know. There's no lines, no wrinkles.
No, nothing.
Wow. So, I mean, in these 2 years, I mean, I know you've been traveling a lot and on the road a lot, but you were talking to me about you did a Frankenstein for a high school in California.
Yeah, yeah.
So, what was the play?
Are you familiar with, the movie Young Frankenstein?
Oh, absolutely. We all love
the
that.
Mel Brooks movie. Well,
Yeah.
he wrote a musical based on the movie called Young Frankenstein the Musical. How
Okay.
appropriate.
Yes.
And that was on Broadway for quite a while. And now the rights to it have been released for community theaters and high schools. And there's a very large high school theater arts department at Calabasas High School in Calabasas, California, which is kind of like a far west suburb of LA.
Okay.
And it's a very affluent community, and with lots of people in the show business arts live in that area, and their children attend this school. So they have a very, very high-end performing arts
Wow.
department of the high
I did
school.
look at the website last night, and it's amazing
Really?
with all the productions they've done.
Oh yeah, they do incredible productions. So they did Young Frankenstein the musical, and in the musical there is one number in the show called Join the Family Business, which is when young Dr. Frankenstein goes back to the old home and he has a dream, and all of his grandfather comes back in the dream and tries to convince him to join the family business, which is creating monsters. Putting monsters together from people's parts. And so within that musical number, there is a segment where they all of the dancers that are playing nurses and doctors and such are all stitching together a big creature in the background, and at the end of the number, the creature stands up, and it's a 14-foot tall Frankenstein, but it's a puppet. So they hired me to build the puppet for the production.
My. So now when you had the call on that, and they said, okay, we want a 14-foot high puppet, Young Frankenstein, what goes through your mind? How do you start the process?
You start the process by saying to yourself, how am I going to do this? And how am I going to do this in 9 days?
Okay.
Because as usual, the people have no concept of how long it takes to make these things. So that's the first thing that goes through my mind is how do you do this 14-foot tall puppet? Because it had to be very lightweight, it couldn't weigh anything or much. So it took a little kind of like on-the-fly engineering,
Uh-huh.
you might say.
Uh-huh. So, at that point, to create the look and to do all that, where does that come from?
Well, actually, it's based on the original old Frankenstein character that was the famous one from the film, the original
Boris
film,
Karloff.
the Boris Karloff kind of Frankenstein with the long face and the green
Mm-hmm.
makeup and all of that. That's where the main inspiration came from, and in the Broadway musical, which they provided me with clips from that number that showed their puppet on Broadway, I kind of got an idea of how it worked,
Yeah.
and it's just a very, very tall rod puppet, basically. And there was nothing there except a head and shoulders and hands, and the rest was all just fabric jacket and fabric pants and big monster shoes. And it all kind of came together like a puzzle,
Oh,
sort of like the face in the Lion King does when
yeah.
the Lion King, the big giant face comes together in pieces. This is how this worked, basically the same way.
Now explain to our audience rod puppet,
Okay,
because they don't know that
okay.
terminology.
A rod puppet is operated literally by rods, generally from underneath,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes it can be operated behind with rods. And
Okay.
so this was a giant rod puppet, and there were like 6 of the student performers, 6 or 7, I can't remember how many for sure, that each had a part of the Frankenstein body
Wow.
on very, very long poles.
Ooh, you really have to be in sync with your partner
Yeah, you
and
do. You do.
your movements and everything.
It was kind of tricky.
That, yeah, and
It's
14
tricky,
feet?
yeah,
And it's a rod? Oh my.
yeah. And so that's basically what it is. So that's a rod puppet, and it was just a giant version of a rod puppet.
Oh my
So
goodness. So it's the hands and it's the feet, but the back of it's like
open.
open.
Hmm.
Okay. Wow.
So that was that. That was fun. It really was fun.
So when you create the face, what's the face made out of to make it light and sculptured?
It's made out of foam, a rigid foam that we call L200, uh, and it's very lightweight, but
Yeah.
it's rigid, but it's flexible. And so I do everything out of flat pieces of foam, and they're all patterned to fit together in a way to make a shape, like the cheeks and the nose and the mouth area and all of that. And so the inside of it is totally hollow, so there's no weight to it really,
Wow.
except the foam itself. So
So now you spray paint the foam or what do you?
this one was spray painted, yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, a lot of times we cover it with fabric, but there really wasn't enough time to do that for this.
9 days.
Yeah, for this project. Plus, it was on stage. It was, way back from the audience, and the lighting was very dim for that. So we were able to spray paint it, and it looked just great.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
But you've been doing this for so many years, so of course when something like this comes up, your brain goes into
I've been doing this way too long.
not way too long. You
Why did I say yes? No, that's.
No, I mean over the years you have created so many different things that people don't even know about. I mean, like Kellogg's Corn Flakes. Didn't you do the strawberry?
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, you did the strawberry for that commercial.
Yeah.
The guy walking out of his home with a briefcase, and he's a strawberry. You did a lot of, refresh my memory on a couple of them that you've done.
Oh,
Didn't you
gosh.
do, well, you did Homer Simpson.
I did, yeah, I did a
You did
Homer
14
Simpson
heads, didn't you?
12
Oh, because I was there.
for a show that was on called L.A. Law. That was a series. Gosh, I guess it was back in the mid 80s,
Yeah,
I think. In fact, you were there in L.A. when I was doing that.
yeah.
And I think you went to the studio with me to deliver it.
I helped you carry all the heads.
That's right. And it was for the 12 jury members in the courtroom scene.
Right, right. And I mean, it's it's a whole world. It's a whole different world when you're dealing with puppetry and creating different looks for commercials and camera ready.
Hmm.
And you're so used to that. In fact, when we got here today, Ashley, are you there, Ashley? I don't.
Yes, I heard yes.
You heard yes?
Yes.
Okay. I have to make sure she's there. Thank you, Ashley. um, they were watching the nanny, and Lamb Chop was on the nanny, and you were there.
Hmm.
And you can get it on YouTube where Lamb Chop walks into the front door. And weren't you in back with the wires when Sherry was walking in, and then you let go?
When
And
she
then,
had to go through the door and on into the set.
and then she sat on the sofa, and you were behind the sofa.
Yes, then we reset me behind the sofa.
Oh my God, it's Sherry Lewis! Hello! I saw your lips move. Oh, hello, Miss Chop. I'm Fran Fine, and I must tell you that I have been a fan of yours ever since I was a little girl. Ever since you were...
Oh, that is impossible. I'm only 6.
Oh, come on. I used to watch you on my black and white
I'm
TV.
only 6.
Oh, I get it. That's okay. My mother counts in lamb years, too.
Sorry, I'm late. Hello, Miss Lewis, Cece Babcock.
Oh, hello.
What did I do? Miss Babcock, your coat! New Zealand lamb? So? Maybe she had people there?
So what's it like when you can't see what you're doing and you just know?
Most of the times you can see it because when you're doing the television and film work, you generally have a monitor that sits down on the floor
Okay.
so you can see what the camera is seeing.
Okay, so backwards or the way it really is?
Well, they can play it back to you either way. They can do it how the camera actually sees it and it looks backwards to you, or they can what they say flip it electronically and
Okay.
do a mirror image. So, which is of course much easier to follow. But every puppeteer kind of trains in a different method. A lot of people are used to training just with a regular monitor and learning to kind of work backwards.
Right.
And then a lot of puppeteers like myself were trained with the mirror image method, which is exactly what you're doing on the same side of the screen. So, but you can see it. There are a few instances where you have to work blind, totally blind. But if you're used to the puppet and
You know what it's
the
going to do.
situation, you can generally pull it off. It's just when you have to relate to something else that it gets tricky. But I never really did that because Sherry was always controlling Lamb Chop,
Right.
you know, from here, and she knew exactly where to look with Lamb Chop, and I just did the arms and the legs.
Right, because I do remember Lamb Chop's hands going.
Oh yeah,
And I always wondered, how does she do that? It was you.
she doesn't do it.
She doesn't do it.
No, but
No.
she was very kind, and she always let everyone know that I was the one that was making Lamb Chop's arms and legs move.
You always got the film credit.
Yeah.
Because I always look for your name at the end of the shows. And there you are. Now, what advice would you give a new person who would want to go into this line of work? I mean, we have many, many Maine people here that, I mean, they loved your last show and they learned so much.
Oh, great.
And, I mean, what advice would you give them?
Well, it all depends on what area they want to get into as far as puppetry goes. Are they strictly a puppeteer, or are they a builder, or are they a puppeteer and a builder? And what kind of puppetry do they want to do? They want to do live puppetry on stage, film and television puppetry. Those are all
different areas.
Yeah, things that have to be considered. And a lot of puppeteers do it all. It's a very interesting business, and it really is. It's very large and encompassing of a lot of things, and it really helps if you have theater background because there's so much of the theater elements that are involved in puppetry. So it's very helpful to have kind of a background in that.
Now, a lot of people I mean, they think a puppet is a puppet is a puppet. But you have marionettes, which is a puppet, but it's a different way. Then you have your hand puppet, rod puppet. There's different techniques for all of these.
Exactly. Yeah. They all involve different performing techniques, and a lot of them overlap. But there are a lot of puppeteers who are incredible with hand puppets, Muppet style puppets,
Okay.
and they wouldn't even dream of getting near a marionette. They don't have any idea where to even begin on how to operate a marionette.
Okay.
And vice versa. There are a lot of marionette artists that are really incredible, but they don't know the first thing about hand puppeteering. So,
You know what I'm thinking about right now while you're talking? As you all know, Pat and I have been friends for 30-some years.
probably more.
Probably more. Well, we met when we were 5. But anyway, we used to go on sailing trips with a dear friend of ours, and he was the captain. And Jimmy was there, and James would be the captain of the boat, and Pat and I would always be down in the kitchen. Because we smoked, so we could smoke down there, and nobody would know up above, but of course they did. But Pat, being a puppeteer, he made everything in the kitchen talk or move. We spent more times laughing so hard, so very hard. Now, what's your memory of, I mean, we did like 7, 8 trips. I always think of the grill, when you put the snorkel on the grill. If you ever had a friend that is a puppeteer and has a very sick sense of humor,
I don't understand what you're
I
saying.
know you
No,
don't.
I don't.
We were on the boat, and very expensive sailing, and it had a grill, and we come in one night to anchor for the evening. You decided to sit on the back of the boat and clean the
Clean
grill.
the grill.
Well, the motor was running, and Pat was sitting there. Well, we all saw Pat sitting there, and all of a sudden, Pat's gone and the grill is gone. And we had to turn the motor off real quick because it would have sucked you in. But we did that. But
Well, so that you don't mystify people forever, let's tell them that I kind of dropped the grill when I was cleaning it.
you didn't say you dropped the grill.
I didn't? Well, I have now.
You confessed.
All right, yeah, it slipped out of my hands, all right?
You said it bounced off the back of the boat and you had to go down
Well,
and save it.
It did after it slipped out of my hands. And all I could see was our food cooking source going bloop, bloop. So I had to jump in and get it, but I kind of forgot that the motor was running on the boat and the propeller was right there.
Yes, I know. And of course, he went down to catch the grill.
Yeah.
And the next morning when I got up and came up above, he had a snorkel on the grill and the little
Glasses.
glasses. So, I mean, we laughed an awful lot because Pat has this wonderful sense of humor. And he can make anything and everything talk. And if he can't make it talk,
Then we do something else, right?
we do something else. But, I just had to throw that in because, I mean, we have had so many years of laughter and so many years of you doing things that, I mean, I treasure. I mean, I treasure those moments and that laughter we had.
They were fun, weren't they?
I mean, we hit some rocky waves one time, and it was lunchtime, and everybody was above, and Pat and I are making lunch, and it's
We're making pasta salad.
pasta salad, and they had music on. Who's the girl who sang, "Where's the Ocean"?
Oh, you mean Sail Away? Enya?
Well, Enya, but there was, "Where's the ocean?" And you said, "Right here, right here." And we're rocking and rolling, and the next thing I know, I turn around, and the bowl of pasta just went right up on Pat, and it was just hanging all. I think I wet my pants on that one. I really do.
And we didn't tell anybody, and we put all the pasta back in the bowl.
Yeah, didn't somebody say, isn't there a little hair in
And
here?
little hair in here.
But no, I mean, we really
Had fun.
had fun. So now going back to LA and all the things you have done, are you still involved with the Puppetry Guild?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so what's going on with that? Now, are you teaching or are you just
Actually, I'm on the board of directors, and I'm the treasurer and the membership guild of the Los Angeles membership guild, the membership chair of the guild for the Los Angeles Guild of Puppetry,
okay?
which is a regional puppetry organization, and that's a branch of the National Puppetry Organization, which is the Puppeteers of America. And it's a lot of diversified people in the guild.
What's the age bracket now within the guild?
Oh, from like 15 years old up through, oh, I think some of our oldest members are in their late 80s, early 90s.
Wow.
So it's a big, big age range.
Yeah.
We still have several of the founding members are still active in the guild from the Los Angeles Guild, which was formed in 1956.
Okay.
And we're the largest regional guild in the United States with the most members. And we have a few celebrity members.
Who?
Oh,
Oh, come on, tell us. We won't tell anybody, will we?
no, you can't.
Can't. Okay, who?
We have, Mallory Lewis
Yeah. Sherry's daughter.
is a member.
Okay.
And we have an actor who was very popular in the early 1970s, mid 70s, and his name is Ken Berry. And Ken Berry
Was he in F Troop?
yes, he was the star of F Troop, and also Mama's Family.
Yeah,
with
he was in
Vicki
Mama's.
Lawrence, and
Yeah.
he's a lovely gentleman, and he had an interest in puppetry when he was a kid. And I met him at a friend's dinner party one night, and we talked about it. And he knew that I was a puppeteer, and so he kind of confessed that he was into puppets when he was a kid. And I said,
He was a closet puppeteer?
yeah, I guess so. And I said, so then you should join the LA Guild of Puppetry. And he did. So he's been a member of the guild for several years.
Wow. Yeah, I remember him.
Yeah.
Who else?
Offhand, those are the two big names that I can think of right now.
Now, what do you think of the guy who has jalapeno on a stick?
Oh, Jeff Dunham.
Yeah.
He's great. He's so funny. He just cracks me up, and I love him because each of his characters is totally different. But he has such off-the-wall stuff, like the pepper on the stick,
Yep.
and
Armand, the
dead terrorist.
dead terrorist, and then his son, who's
Yeah.
half a dead terrorist.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, boy, the thought pattern on that, I marvel at.
No, he's really great.
I know, and I mean, jalapeno on a stick, just that makes me laugh.
I know. He's
Yeah.
good. Very
So,
good.
so now, I mean, does he do shows around LA, Magic
He's
Castle?
kind of like Mallory Lewis. He does a lot of concert
Yeah.
tours in his own live show and TV specials that
Wow.
are based, I think, on all these live stage shows that he does.
Now, what changes have you seen within your industry over the years? I mean, have there been a lot of technical changes over the years? I mean, I
Sure.
remember, people would do shows and, now it's like you push a button and this happens and that happens. But what have you seen that changed the most in puppetry?
Well, the biggest thing that's changed is the use of computer-generated puppet effects, both, digitally on film and also they can apply to live puppetry as well. Things can be programmed, to operate at the push of a button, and so the puppeteers work is simplified in some aspects, but then it's become more complex because of all the technical aspects of it. So that probably the electronics are the biggest change.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
also the field is much more competitive than it used to be now as far as puppeteering goes, and as far as building goes too. So the field is a lot larger. There's a lot more diversified kind of puppetry and building techniques that are going around. So everything, it's been very advanced. And an example would be, I think you remember the last time I came on your show, we talked a lot about the gopher from Caddyshack.
Yes.
With the original puppet, which I did in 1979, I think was when that movie was made. That puppet was all cable operated. It had cables that ran out of it to a big control panel where they had levers and pulleys and all sorts of things that operated the movement on the gopher.
Yeah.
Just a harmless squirrel, not a plastic explosive or anything, nothing to be worried about.
He's not crazy about gophers, but he is crazy.
Licensed to kill gophers by the government of the United Nations.
And introducing Mr. Gopher as himself.
I said freeze, gopher!
Caddyshack.
And I basically just controlled the body and the head and the mouth, which were mechanical.
All right.
And the rest was all cable operated. Well, then back in 2002, 2003, when I was contacted to rebuild a duplicate puppet for an American Express commercial with Tiger Woods,
I remember that.
we were able to rebuild the puppet and replace all of that complicated cable network with servo-controlled motors inside the puppet that were operated wirelessly with like a model airplane controller.
Wow.
So that was a big change. I mean, it went
That's
from
a
all
big change.
it went from mechanically hand operated to electronically operated, but there still had to be a puppeteer, of course,
Yeah,
to do
yeah.
all that. But so that's a big advance right there. I mean, time marches on, and so does puppetry. So there you go.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big, big change because from the time you did Caddyshack and then you did the commercial with Tiger Woods,
Changed a lot.
yeah, like 20 years, isn't it?
No, I think it's more than that. 1980, about 22, 23 years.
All right. Yeah, because I mean, you just see a lot of things, and it's almost like photography. Photography now is so easy for people. I mean, anybody can pick up a camera, and I go back to the days of the film in the darkroom and developing and cropping and working with your color, and I think I know photography because of that, and I look at people who do wonderful work. There are some wonderful photographers out there, but they have Photoshop, they have this, they have that.
Sure.
Is it good or bad? It's what it is now.
Right.
So I can look at a good photo and say, okay, was the sky really that blue, or was it really, this or that? And you can enhance it. And I just always want to see it as it really is. And puppetry, specifically, a friend of mine in New York wrote a book on puppetry, and Sherry's in there, and I think you're in there. And boy, she went through the history going back to China and up until now. And amazing book.
Eileen?
Eileen.
Can't remember her last name.
I know her dog's name, Razzle. Of course I do. But there's a lot of background there. And now all the show's on. There's a show called Create Shop or Creative Shop on Sci-Fi.
Oh, where they make their
The
own.
Hanson son.
Yeah, right. Brian Henson
Yeah,
is the host, I think.
yeah.
And they create monster puppets and
Oh.
all sorts of things.
They have a theme going on. And he's always looking for the next builder,
Creature maker. Or
creature
whatever.
maker.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is a industry, if our audience is thinking about going into it, they really need to.
Yeah. You have to educate yourself in it, just like you go to college to learn different subjects, and it's the same kind of thing. Unfortunately, there's really no, you know, specific college you can go to anymore that offers any degrees in puppetry. I think there's one, the University of Connecticut offers
Oh.
it, and some schools have puppetry classes, but it's a great way to learn. And, you know, a lot of the people that are members of the puppetry guilds in different cities learn by joining that guild, because in the guilds they offer workshops
Okay.
and lectures and all sorts of different things to assist people in kind of, you know, preparing for whatever field they want to go into, whether it's puppeteering or writing for puppetry and producing and building. And you asked me earlier about teaching, I think,
Yeah.
and I've done several workshops for the Los Angeles Puppetry Guild. Foam construction, the type of foam construction that I do, and which it's a tough process, and everybody wants to learn how to make a Muppet puppet, and it sounds so easy, but it's really not. It's pretty
No.
complex. So I've taught several workshops on that technique, and then oddly enough, I taught a couple of workshops on sock puppets. How about that?
How about that?
And of course, everyone wants to make a lamb chop.
Of course.
No,
Of course.
have to start simple and work up.
Wow. We really need you here in Maine. You could teach all these kids out here who don't know what to do. Yeah, we're going to kidnap him and make him live here in Maine, and then he'll teach you all how to be puppeteers or to build.
Ooh,
Ooh,
that's a
we need you
tall
here.
order for me to follow.
Well, no, I don't think it is. I think it's second nature to you, and I think you can do it. Now,
I love teaching. It's exciting, and you get to a certain age where it's like, well, I might as well just pass all this knowledge along, because what am I going to do with it?
oh,
you know?
you're a fountain of knowledge.
Well, there are a lot of people who don't like to give away their expertise, as it were. But you know, like I thought that many years ago. I
Yeah.
thought, well, I'm not going to tell everybody how to do this the way I do it. And then
Right, you're going to lose work.
now it's kind of like, well, you know, got to pass it along. Might as
Somebody's
well.
got to learn.
Somebody's got to do this.
Somebody has to. No, I mean, really, I mean, because here in Maine, you know, a lot of people who want to get into acting or modeling, they have to end up going to New York or LA. They really do. And once it gets to that point, you know, in between, you've got to have your training and you've got to learn. UNE has a good theater department, and you know they do some plays and that. But for puppetry, now would they be better off going just to LA? I mean, living in New York, I don't remember.
You know, it varies. There's a lot more film and television work probably in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
There's a lot more stage work, of course, with puppets on the East Coast in New York. And there's also a lot of puppet builders in New York too.
Yeah.
There's several big shops in New York that are very active in building puppets for film and television. So you can go either direction. It's kind of hard to get a career going in puppetry in the middle of the United States. You either have to be on one coast or the other if you really want to get your foot in the door
Okay.
with it. And then it's tough because, like I told you earlier, it's so competitive now. When I first went out to LA, there were just a handful of puppeteers,
Yeah.
and now I think there are over 200 puppeteers that are members of Screen Actors Guild.
Wow.
So it's grown a lot.
It has grown a lot.
And I get calls all the time from people that are referred to me, the new kids in town, as it were, who want to get my feelings on how to get their foot in the door in the industry out there. And it's tough. You just have to tell them, you just have to go for it. Go for anything you can.
I agree with that logic, and it's not easy, and it's very
Oh, it's
difficult.
not. It's not.
I mean, we grew up in a generation that you knocked on doors. You walked the streets, you knocked on doors, you took little jobs, you got your foot in the door. And a lot of kids today don't want to do that. They want it all made up and packaged. And the few that really, really want to do it, I always like to help them and give them the insight of where they have to go or what they have to do. And it's just a very specialized. And when you're here, I just pick your brain and we get all excited and you're here, you're here. You
Well,
know.
thank you.
Well, it's true. It's true. And you bring such knowledge to everybody here that we can't thank you enough, really.
Well, maybe someday we can do some classes here. It, you know, it's a little different than sitting here talking about it.
Well, I know, but you know, I mean, we're going to have to get something put together. I mean, I told you about Awesome Hobby, which is Biddeford, Maine, on Main Street, and
Oh, the comic book.
yeah, the
store.
comic book place. And this guy is really making a difference with the kids here. I mean, they can go in there, they can play games. I'm going to stop there, you know, after the show today. He's making a difference, and so I want to kidnap you and package you. Can I?
What? Sell me in the comic book store?
Maybe. Maybe.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
sounds easy.
Okay.
Let's do that.
Let's do
you
that.
do all the work.
Ay vey.
You do the packaging.
I'll just push
Sit
you
there.
out there. So I want to touch on, because we're getting short on time and I hate that. Really. Movies. Movies.
What about them?
Well, you've done quite a few. Refresh their memory.
Oh, good grief.
Come on.
All of my fine films?
I want you to talk about yourself.
Oh,
Come
ick.
on.
Well, let's see. Where do we start? I guess we start with the first film that I ever did, which was the Muppet movie, the original Muppet movie back in...
Wasn't that, they came to New York?
No, they came to L.A.
Or the
to
Muppets
film the
came?
movie.
Okay, all right.
They originated in New York. They became very popular in New York on like things like the Ed Sullivan Show when that was still running, and oh gosh, like Jack Parr's Tonight Show and things like that. Johnny Carson's in New York, and then they got, you know, they had the Muppet Show, which was a very big television hit, and they filmed that in England.
I know that. Oh.
Yeah, they filmed it in England because that's where he got his financial support to do the show, was from Britain and an English studio there.
Wow.
And then they came to Hollywood, of course, to do the Muppet movie, which was about the Muppets coming to Hollywood to make their first film. And so that's what that was. And I was a workshop assistant on that, which means taking care of the puppets, wrangling the puppets, doing maintenance on the puppets. And then they used me as a background puppeteer when they needed an extra body to operate something. And that was a lot of fun. And the next thing I did, because of the Muppet movie, which here's a perfect example of getting your foot in the door.
Yeah.
Caddyshack was being filmed, and this was around 1979, I guess. And they filmed all of Caddyshack in Florida with the actors,
Okay.
but really nothing with the actual gopher. They were going to insert that in L.A. They tried to do it live in Florida, and it just wasn't working. The puppet looked like a little sock puppet, a little hand puppet.
Yeah.
And it was awful, and nobody liked it. And then it was a prop man had gotten stuck with puppeteering, and they decided they needed a professional puppeteer who could give emotion into the character. I mean, what kind of emotion you get from a gopher, it's questionable, but somebody knew that I had done the Muppet movie, and they actually called me and asked me if I would be interested in being the puppeteer for the gopher, and I said, yeah, sure.
Yeah, why not?
So what they did was they refilmed the parts that they had already done in Florida in L.A. and then, you know, edited those into the finished film. And so that was my first solo puppeteering thing.
Is it scary?
Oh, yeah. It was frightening.
Yeah.
It was frightening because this was quite a big deal.
Yeah.
And then, you know, when it was coming out, no one thought it would be anything.
Oh,
They
it's a
just thought
cult movie
another
now.
little comedy thing.
Yeah.
And now it's a cult film,
Yeah, it really is.
and it's great to be associated with it because, yeah, it was fun. It was daunting, but it was a lot of fun. So then from Caddyshack, I did, oh, good grief, Short Circuit, the robot movie, and Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, which was fun to do.
Who were you?
I was an anaconda snake.
Oh, you were.
Yeah, don't you recognize?
Oh, yeah, kind of. I just see that little snake skin here.
Yeah, and that was it. I think it was maybe 4 or 5 seconds in the film.
Okay.
But hey, got to go for it.
You go for it. You meet
Steven
people.
Spielberg can't
Yeah.
go wrong there.
No, no, no.
And then I did a couple of others that were pretty crummy little comedies. One was called My Stepmother is an Alien with Kim Basinger and Dan Aykroyd. And
Didn't you work the snake? Weren't you between her legs during that time with the snake?
come on, Tony, let's clarify that.
Steve's back there going, what?
What? I spent 13 weeks, was it? Good grief. Yeah, I guess it was. It was supposed to be like 1 week, and it turned into 13. But I played a creature in Kim Basinger's handbag. She was an alien, and the creature in the bag was advising her on what to do. And so it was a rod puppet. All right, remember rod puppets?
I remember rod puppets.
Okay, well, and it was cable operated too.
Okay.
Cable, and I think it was electronic, both of those, who knows? I don't remember, but I would come up through the bottom of her purse, so consequently I had to be beneath her almost the entire time.
Okay, you cleaned it up. Okay.
Good grief, Tony.
Go on.
That's why you all keep tuning in, isn't it? For moments like this. So it was actually fun to do. I was really intimidated by Kim Basinger when we first started.
Yeah.
Because I think she was a little intimidated by me crawling around underneath her all the time. But by the end of the thing, we were just like,
Hey,
give me 5.
give me 5. Give me 5.
That was it. And so that was kind of fun after that whole thing. And then I did one called So I Murdered an Axe Murderer. No. And so I murdered an axe. My stepmother is an alien, and so I married an axe murderer. The titles get real confusing because they're also lame.
And who were you in that?
Okay, I was Mike Myers' fake hands in that.
Okay.
At the end of the movie, he's hanging onto a rain gutter on a house, and there's an axe murderess who's trying to kill him, and she's chopping at his hands to get him to drop from the gutter and plummet and kill himself. Well, they couldn't really have Mike Myers' real hands up there
Oh, no.
with a real axe chopping at it. So they had, fake hands built, and I had to rig them so that the fingers moved, so that they weren't just rubber fingers doing nothing, but they had to move and look like they were almost going to let go and then grab back on again, that sort of a thing. And so there were 2 puppeteers. I was on one arm, and there was another puppeteer on the other arm, and we were each on the side of Mike Myers, holding on to the gutter, and that was it. So at the end of the movie, you see, I think Mike Myers' character was Charlie or something.
Yeah.
It says Charlie's hands. Pat Brymer and Alan Troutman or something like that. So that was that. And then what else was in there? Something else was in there, but
In that movie?
no, that's the end of that movie. That's all that
Okay.
was. Another. Well, I think that was maybe on 30 seconds.
Oh, all right.
That was big time.
That's big time.
And then there was the last feature film I did was Team America.
Yeah, and Team America was amazing.
Very, very naughty.
Very naughty. Naughty.
It was fun, and that's another example of how puppetry has evolved. I mean, that movie, Team America, was based on an old series back when I was a kid called Thunderbirds, which was a British television series that played in the States here, and it was all marionettes, but they looked very lifelike. They weren't howdy-doody time jiggly marionettes. They were legitimate-looking marionettes, and they had a lot of special effects. for this, and it was incredible when I was a kid. I thought, this is just so great. And that's when I was really heavy into marionettes.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thunderbirds are go.
So Team America was based on that, but they technically it was so upgraded because it was still marionettes, but all of the facial features, the mouth and the eyes and everything were all electronic with little teeny motors inside the puppets.
Oh,
And they were only 18 inches tall. And so the heads were only like this, you know. But they had all these little motors inside that operated all of these different parts. And they had like little latex masks that they could put on the skull that would fit, and the eyes would come through, and the mouth would attach from inside, and then they could peel that face off, just like Mission Impossible,
Oh
and
my.
put another one on. And so that was a lot of fun. And there were about 60 puppeteers that were used in that movie over the course of the filming, and it was like a giant family reunion. It was a lot of fun.
Oh,
A lot of fun.
that movie, I mean, everything. I mean, you really had to look at all the background and all the scenery, because there was always somewhere in there a message.
Yeah, there was.
Now, the street was dollar signs
Oh, what in which
Team
street?
America.
In Paris?
at the beginning when it first.
That was Paris. They were in
okay.
Paris at the beginning.
All right,
And
so
the cobblestone streets were made out of croissant rolls.
oh, croissant rolls.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was a little hidden thing you had to look for in that one. Then there was, oh, what was the other one? Cairo, when they were in Cairo. If you look carefully, all of the palm trees, all of the fronds and the palm trees were made out of dollar bills.
Right, that's where the money
currency.
came in.
Yeah.
Okay.
And another one, let's see, what was another one? In the Panama Canal, in the set dressing on that, all of the foliage and the bushes and everything, it was all marijuana plants. Didn't matter if it was a tree that was a 20-foot tree, it was still marijuana, and the bushes were marijuana, and it was pretty funny.
Oh my God!
Pretty
I mean
funny.
that I would love to crawl into your brain and watch it work.
Well, not me. I had to crawl into the set designer's brain. He was the brilliant person behind all
I
that.
mean that's just so out there and it's so wonderful. So if
It
you
was.
get a chance, it's online probably. YouTube.
Team America?
Yeah.
Oh, it plays all the time on the Comedy Channel and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you can get it.
Keep a lookout for that. Team America.
Yeah.
And
And put the kids to bed. before
put the
you-
kids to bed, and really look at what's going on with the background and everything. It's very funny.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, I just
So-
love you so much.
Well,
I just
thank
do.
you.
I just do.
I love you too, and it's fun to be back.
Oh God, I know. I don't want to let you guys go. I mean, it's just too long in between visits.
I know, but
I know. You don't want to get caught in another snowstorm.
no.
Last time Pat was here, he tells us here at the studio, he says, well, I'm going home on Thursday, and we all look at each other and go, no, you're not. Oh, yeah, I am.
And I didn't.
And he didn't. And we got snowed in.
And it was great fun.
It was great fun. Lots of movies, lots of Scrabble, and lots of laughter in the kitchen.
It was a good time.
It was good.
So,
I'm thinking, see, I'm going back again. We have so much history together. And I go back and I'm thinking about the fish you made talk one night at dinner on the boat. You remember that?
no.
Yeah, it was that fish thing, that stuffed fish. And you were sitting there and you kept putting it over the top of the table. And I always flash back on that because that just cracked me up so much that we were really kicked out and we had to go up above
We had
because
to go away.
we had to go away because we were laughing much too hard. But anyway, we're out of time and I don't want to let you go, but I have to because we're out of time.
Sorry.
It's your fault.
Why? Because I talk too much? Yeah. That's it, Pat.
Yeah, Pat. You're too much. So thank you for being on Tony Time again.
Oh, you're welcome.
And you'll come back again.
Of course, I'd be loving to come back with you.
Loving to come back.
Loving to come back with you.
And we'll try to get Pat here permanently, and then he can start teaching all of you. Ha ha.
Ha ha.
Ha ha. So anyway, everybody, I want to thank you for watching Tony Time. Again, you know, we have another show here that has just been, time goes by too fast. So have a good day, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.